The announcement shook India's middle class like a storm. Overnight, President Donald Trump's administration declared a massive hike in H-1B visa fees, reaching nearly $100,000 per application for millions of Indian families who dream of a better life in the United States. This was not just a policy change. It was a thunderclap that rattled homes, offices, and futures. India's government, business leaders, and families responded with alarm. From Delhi to Bangalore, from Hyderabad to California, this move was seen as a targeted blow, not just to workers, but to an entire system of global talent mobility that had long been dominated by Indian professionals. And as New Delhi put it, this fee hike could disrupt families, break dreams, and even reshape the geopolitical relationship between India and the United States. To understand why this fee hike has become such a massive story, we need to rewind to the roots of the H-1B program. For decades, the H-1B visa has been the golden ticket for skilled Indian engineers, doctors, scientists, and entrepreneurs. Silicon Valley was built in no small part by Indian talent. Names like Sundar Pichai of Google and Satya Nadella of Microsoft stand as living proof of how Indian immigrants transformed the face of American technology. But today, that very pipeline is under attack. Trump's argument is simple: America first. He claims foreign workers are undercutting U.S. citizens, draining jobs, and exploiting loopholes. By raising the price of an H-1B visa to astronomical levels, his administration believes it can choke the flow, protect American workers, and tilt the market. But at what cost? And at whose expense? In India, the shockwaves are not just economic. They are deeply personal. Imagine a family in Hyderabad. The father is a software engineer, the mother a school teacher, their son dreaming of joining MIT. For years, they have saved every rupee, hoping that one day an H-1B opportunity would transform their life. Now suddenly, they face a wall. $100,000 just to file an application. Not guaranteed approval, not guaranteed a job, just the right to apply. For them, this is not immigration policy. This is heartbreak. For many, it means selling land, taking loans, or abandoning the dream altogether. And that is why India says these curbs don't just affect numbers on a spreadsheet. They rip through the fabric of families. Economically, the implications are staggering. India is the largest source of H-1B visa holders, accounting for nearly 70% of all recipients. Every year, tens of billions of dollars in remittances flow back to India, strengthening households, funding education, and supporting local economies. The Reserve Bank of India has often noted how crucial this money is to maintaining foreign exchange reserves. But if Indian workers are shut out, that pipeline dries up. Already, the Indian rupee is wobbling. Analysts point to the visa hike as one of the reasons foreign inflows are slowing, adding stress to an already fragile currency. In other words, this is not just a U.S. domestic decision, it is a geopolitical earthquake whose tremors are being felt in India's villages and cities alike. Politically, New Delhi is walking a tightrope. On one hand, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has cultivated a close relationship with Washington, branding it as a defining partnership of the 21st century. Defense deals, technology sharing, and a united front against China have been the cornerstones of this alliance. On the other hand, Modi cannot be seen as silent when Indian families are targeted by policies that crush their dreams. That is why India's External Affairs Ministry swiftly labeled the H-1B fee hike as disruptive and unfair. Behind closed doors, diplomats are warning that this could create serious friction in the so-called strategic partnership. Because when you attack people's livelihoods, you strike at the heart of the bilateral relationship. Trump's move has also sparked anger within America itself. Silicon Valley companies, many of whom rely heavily on Indian engineers, are warning of a talent crunch. CEOs argue that innovation doesn't happen in isolation. The reason American tech has dominated the world is because it has attracted the best brains, regardless of nationality, by making it financially impossible for Indian professionals to enter. The US is essentially cutting off its own lifeline of talent. The next big breakthrough in AI, quantum computing, or biotech could slip away to Canada, Europe, or even back to India itself. And that raises another key question. Will this H-1B crackdown backfire and accelerate India's rise as a global tech hub? Already, countries like Canada and Germany are positioning themselves as alternative destinations for skilled Indian workers. With easier visa rules, lower fees, and welcoming policies, they are inviting the very talent that America is shutting out. For India, this is a double-edged sword. On one side, fewer H-1Bs means less brain drain. Skilled Indians may stay home, boosting domestic innovation. On the other side, losing access to Silicon Valley's ecosystem means missing out on global exposure and cutting-edge opportunities. The truth is, Indian families are being forced into painful choices: chase impossible fees, migrate elsewhere, or give up entirely. At the human level, the stories are heart-wrenching. Fathers separating from children, spouses split by geography, students seeing their plans collapse overnight. Social media in India is flooded with messages of despair and anger. One post went viral. A young woman wrote, "My father spent his life savings preparing for my dream of studying and working in the US now. With these fees, I feel like our future has been stolen." These are not isolated stories. They are millions of lived realities being reshaped by a single policy decision thousands of miles away in Washington. And yet, amid the gloom, India is trying to project strength. Officials stress that while families are suffering, India will not allow its national interest to be dictated by any other country. In fact, this moment is being reframed by some as an opportunity for India to double down on its own development. If the US shuts its doors, India must open new ones. Invest in domestic startups, strengthen its education system, and create world-class jobs at home. Some argue that this could even be the trigger that finally forces India to become truly self-reliant in technology, reducing dependency on foreign markets. The global context makes this even more dramatic. This H-1B controversy is not happening in a vacuum. It comes amid a global wave of protectionism, trade wars, and shifting alliances. For Trump, targeting Indian visas may play well with his base. But for India, it sends a chilling signal. Even allies can turn adversarial when domestic politics take over. That is why many in India see this not just as an immigration issue, but as a test of the US-India relationship itself. Can the two countries weather these storms? Or will this become a long-term wedge that pushes India closer to other powers like Russia or China? Diplomatic whispers suggest that India may retaliate quietly, perhaps by slowing down defense purchases or seeking deeper ties with Europe. Already, India is negotiating more aggressively with the European Union and the United Kingdom, exploring trade and talent mobility agreements that could offset the American shock. In other words, the H-1B crisis could accelerate a realignment in India's foreign policy, shifting it toward multipolar partnerships rather than an overdependence on Washington. For the Indian diaspora already in the US, the mood is anxious. Those who hold H-1Bs fear renewal costs will cripple them financially. Students on F-1 visas worry their future pathways are closing. Parents back in India wonder if they will ever see their children settle abroad as they once dreamed. These anxieties are not abstract. They are daily conversations at dinner tables, in WhatsApp groups, and in community halls. The Indian diaspora is one of America's most successful immigrant communities, contributing massively to the economy, academia, and politics. But now, their loyalty and future are being tested. The bigger picture is about power. By raising H-1B fees, Trump is sending a message. America will use every tool, including visas, as leverage in negotiations. It is a reminder that geopolitics is not only about missiles and trade, but about people's lives. For India, this is both a warning and a wake-up call. It cannot take for granted that the US will always act as a partner. National interest comes first, and India must be prepared to protect its citizens wherever they are. The future is uncertain, but one thing is clear. This fee hike has unleashed debates that will shape the next decade of U.S.-India relations. Will America lose its edge by shutting out Indian talent? Will India emerge stronger by keeping its best minds at home? Or will families continue to be caught in the crossfire of great power politics? Only time will tell. But for now, the world is watching as a visa policy transforms into a geopolitical flashpoint. One that tests not only economies, but the very bonds between nations and families.